I said, you might as well pull up Chinese. There is nothing here that I understand.
What is your perspective as far as what it takes to be a founder and be a tech founder?
Getting to be more and more people who are not technical, who want to start a SaaS company.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the BYU Tech Transfer Podcast. Today we have Nick Dutson with us. He works currently at Red Sky Engineering. His background is in sales. Nick, do you mind maybe introducing yourself a little bit, talking about your career, how you got to where you're at, and a little bit about transitioning from, pure sales into more tech sales with Red Sky?
Yeah, for sure. So Nick Dutson from Delta, Utah, for everybody that knows that place. Which actually we'll piece into this in a minute. My background, right out of high school, knocked doors. Very nice. Security.
It's very relatable here at BYU.
Right.
Yes.
Security company got me before I even left on my mission. And so I went out and knocked doors for 6 weeks and made some pretty decent money, really in a terrible way. And so when I got back from my mission, I didn't really want to do that again, but met some guys that were a lot more honest, a lot more along the same lines as me. Mm-hmm. And so I knocked doors actually for 2 more years when I got home for a pest control company.
Very nice.
It was great. I managed a team the second year, but that kind of got me started into sales. I've always had kind of a entrepreneurship mind as well. And so from there, I got a couple of jobs while I was in school, but started a landscaping company with my brother. And then he was actually working part-time with me and full-time at a SaaS company selling dental software.
Very nice.
And he was making a ton of money.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, maybe we ought to
transition. Switch things up a little bit.
He wanted to quit altogether, the landscaping, because he was doing so well in sales. And so I followed him instead. Jumped into sales for Solution Reach is the name of the company, dental software. And we made some money there, did a few years, and then my wife actually started an Etsy shop. She wanted to buy some expensive curtains that I was not willing to buy for her. And so she started an Etsy shop selling custom doormats, which sounds super random, but it took off, and I quit my job at Solution Reach to run that business with her.
Very cool.
For 5 years, we did that. She transitioned into some laser engraved items because the Costco got involved in doormats and made really great ones for nothing.
Right, hard to compete.
And so we had to kind of pivot there. When I quit my job, we had 2 kids. 5 years later, we had 5 total. And so she was ready to be mom again. Sales were coming down a little because of the Costco thing and COVID, all those things. Yeah. And so pivoted back into me going back to work. And so I jumped on with a buddy of mine from Solution Reach. I had known him, and he was hiring for an SDR role, and I hadn't been at work for 5 years. And so I jumped in just to get my feet wet.
Right.
And then McKay Christensen, who was the CEO of Red Sky until last week.
I didn't know that. He's got his fingers in so many different things.
Yeah, so he just actually stepped down, talked to Josh last week, and I guess Josh is going to buy him out, and he's going to go on to the next. But McKay is a buddy of mine from high school. We grew up in Delta together.
Very cool.
And so he called me up and said, hey, I've got a gig here in Spanish Fork. I happen to live there now. And so I was like, instead of driving to Lehigh every day, that's great. He said he'd pay me a little more too.
There you go.
And so I jumped into the real tech world of custom software, which is...
And how has that transition been? Going from selling more product-based to more selling, engineering solutions, deeper on the technical side, I would assume.
Right, and it is. And it was way over my head. Still is, actually, today. As I mentioned to you off camera, I am the least technical person, but I do have a sales background, and I know cool stuff when I see it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when I got hired with McKay, he pulled up some code and said, let me just kind of explain it. I said, you might as well pull up Chinese. There is nothing here that I understand. And so it's been kind of a rough road to understand the tech side of it. I'm understanding the lingo now to some extent, so I can at least have conversations with people.
Right.
But biggest and best thing about me being in tech as a non-tech person is the team that surrounds me.
Right.
They so McKay is a brilliant mind.
Mm-hmm.
Josh is our CTO, co-founder of Red Sky, and he's brilliant. And then we've got senior level and up developers who are less developers and more problem solvers.
Okay.
And so they think through things in a way that's not just code.
Right.
And so it's really not that hard for me to transition people from non-code and non-tech into, hey, these guys, you've got something you want to build, a cool idea, something that's awesome. Let me have you talk with these guys. And it transitions really easily. Yeah. So I haven't had to get too deep into the tech. There is some lingo I've had to learn and am still learning, but it's been a ride, and it's been really fun actually, because there's a whole world that I didn't know about and that I get to learn.
No, that's fantastic. And all of that was why I wanted to bring you in today for the podcast, because doing door-to-door sales, I did some pest control sales myself. Like, that's very relatable to the BYU student body and to our listeners, right? And I think when people get into that, they think there's no way I can transition into tech, right? It's either going to be sales or some other service-based business for the rest of my life, right? And when you told me your story a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago when we were chatting, I was like, man, that is very relatable, right? And then it's very encouraging to people who want to pivot into maybe more technically focused careers, who don't understand the jargon, right? Who look at code and it literally looks like Chinese to them. They're just like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to say. And the reason I wanted to have you in is because that sales background, even for myself, has been invaluable in progressing as an entrepreneur, right? Taking on some of these things, because if you can talk sales, right? Even if you're learning jargon in whatever industry it might be in, that is going to put you so much further ahead than somebody who only knows the jargon and only knows the technical side and doesn't know how to sell, right? And that's a common issue that we see with some of our founders. Issues maybe not the right word, right? But like you're tackling different problems, right? Sales guys who don't understand the technical side versus technical founders who struggle with finding market fit, validating, dealing with pivots, right? Like you talked about with you and your wife's business, where you had to pivot away from something and ultimately had to, pivot into, taking on a full-time job again. Like, all of those types of things are different based off of what your background is. So with your sales background and your kind of expertise there, and learning some of the jargon in the technical side, what is your perspective as far as what it takes to be a founder and be a tech founder? As you've been working with people at Red Sky, getting them up to speed with, hey, you're forming a technical company. Have you seen similar hurdles, similar problems? I don't know. What's your kind of perspective there?
So the hardest thing for me, so Red Sky is. We are master software people, right? They are. I talk about it. And what we've seen is that SaaS is taking over in Utah, especially. All over, but especially in Utah. But with this newfound AI stuff that's coming out, there's getting to be more and more people who are not technical, who want to start a SaaS company because it makes sense from the business side, right? It makes money. And so a lot more people like me that are getting into tech, and it's not that hard right now. Right. It's not perfect. There's a lot that goes into that. And
but the barriers have definitely been lowered.
They have been lowered.
Especially in the last couple of years.
And so, there's a couple of things that you got to be careful with, because the software development is actually way more important than AI makes it seem today, right? Because it seems so easy. You just tell it what to do and it does it for you. And one of the hurdles that we've seen is that people go in and they vibe code their thing, and it's great and it seems to be okay until you go to run it and it says, what's your age? And you put 23. It says, oh, somebody else already has that age, right? So little dumb things that AI is not figuring out or perfect at yet, where an actual coder, somebody that has high level knowledge, would not let that happen. Right.
Would quickly understand what the problem is.
Right.
And wouldn't have created that particular problem in the first place.
Exactly.
Right.
And can fix it if it is a problem, right? That's the other thing, is they know where to look and what to do to fix it. And so, as easy as it might seem, I think that it's really good for people to work closely with somebody that is technical still, mm-hmm. even if you're trying to do it with your vibe coding. I think it's really good to build relationships with people that know what they're doing on yes. top of that. You don't have to hire them. You don't have to, and maybe you do, right? It depends on what you need there, but to at least have access, which is a sales skill, right? Building mm-hmm. relationships is that.
Oh, yes, exactly.
And so,
I mean, that's basically what a sale is, right? Building a little mini relationship, right? To let them feel comfortable with the thing that they want to purchase and moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah. And so building relationships, networking, that's been my big thing. As you know, that's mm-hmm. how we met, right? Yes. LinkedIn, hey, you want to meet up for lunch? I'd love to learn more about you. Mm-hmm. That's where I live. And what I've seen is that people are almost always more willing to share mm-hmm. than not.
Right.
There's very few people that are withholding everything they know from you.
Yes.
Even if you're not paying them, right? It's just, hey, let's go to lunch. Let's have a conversation, learn about. And cool thing about sales is that a lot of times that turns into business.
Yes.
You know, they can't get far enough without actually paying some money for it. Mm-hmm. And then they know you. And so it turns into business. So there's, some hurdles there, but I overall, it's really getting closer and closer together.
So jumping back to maybe the vibe coding a little bit, we use vibe coding a lot right now in tech transfer because it is a fantastic tool for taking something from ideation into something that you can put in front of customers and get feedback very quickly on the sales side, right? Like, are people willing to pay for this? Can I change how it looks? Can I change maybe the concept of the functionality? But we're also very careful to represent that as accurately as we can, right? Saying like, hey, this is a prototype, this is representative of the software, and that the underlying IP may be integrated, or it may need to be put in front of somebody who knows a little bit more on the technical side to be able to integrate those things a little more seamlessly into your prototype.
Right.
And so I really liked your insight there that it is lowering the barriers, but you almost need to have somebody in consultation for what are the limitations of what I've created, right? And at what point does it make sense to put, maybe some of the funding that I'm raising for this, right, into some more traditional development, especially when it comes to things like security, right, or payment processing, or things that if you mess it up, it can go very, very poorly for you very, very quickly, versus features that you're really just trying to get customer feedback on. So I appreciated your insight there. And with what you do at Red Sky, again, you guys are heavily software focused. You do some hardware as well, but a lot of software coming through. When is the right time for somebody to reach out to you from your perspective? And I liked what you said earlier as well about building those relationships, right? Because then it's not a cold outreach.
Right.
It's like, hey, Nick, we talked a month ago about this project that I'm working at. At what point do you feel like it's a more natural transition into, oh, hey, let's actually take a look at your project and what it might cost to build this out? So my personal opinion on that is as early as you can.
Okay. I think that having that relationship, the earlier it starts, the better it will get, right? And so if you can have that relationship up front, I mean, you've got this idea that you want a vibe code, and you throw it past me. Okay, it's a phone call or it's lunch, or
right.
Yeah, let's talk about it. And then as you go through it, we're like walking with you through it, and then when you need us, we're there, right? Rather than, hey, when should I ask you guys about this? I think it's because we've been there, we know what's going to come next in a lot of the situations.
Right.
That we can just tell you, yeah, go this route, and then when you hit this point, let's talk again, right? Let's walk through it together, and then when there's real need for us to do something that you can't, then we'll talk about, putting together a plan to fund it and actually build it out for you. But I think that if the relationship is there, it's not a hard conversation to say, hey, I think maybe we're ready. Let's move forward.
I like that because, I don't know, it's funny, the more people that I talk to and successful people in the tech world, like, they're so willing to give like helpful advice and like be a sounding board, more so than you ever would have thought, getting into entrepreneurship early on.
Right.
And so what you're saying echoes what I've heard everybody say, right? Which is like, talk about your ideas, get it in front of the right people, build those relationships. And then as you come to those bridges that you struggle to cross on your own, it'll just be a natural follow-up conversation, right? And again, like we said, Nick, hey, I talked to you a week ago. Now we're at a point where you said, we might need to come back and talk to you. And then it just becomes this natural organic growth for you. So I really like that.
And on the other side of things, be willing to use the services that you need, right? You don't try to bleed somebody out of the information. If they're actually doing work for you, don't expect that for free. You're friends because you've built this relationship, but they also have to run their business. And so it's good on both sides to understand where those limitations are of just information and casual conversation into, okay, let's work together.
Yeah. And I think as long as being professional,
right? As long as everybody's on the same page, it works out,
Yeah.
right? It's when somebody thinks they should get everything for free and the other person can't give it, or vice versa, they think they should have to pay them for every ounce of information right?
Yes.
You want to make sure we're on the same page.
And that comes back to the sales world, right? Because the best customers from a sales perspective are the ones who pay on time, right? And price really isn't the biggest issue. It's more about the service and the quality that they're getting. Like, those are the people you want to sign up every single day.
Yep.
If your first conversation, like I was thinking back to when I was knocking doors, right? If the first thing they ask about is price and how can they get a discount, like, honestly, I don't even know if I want to sign you up, because you're just going to be headaches down the road, right?
Yep.
And so obviously understanding that when you're in startup mode, right, you're having to be scrappy, you're having to stretch dollars as far as they can go, and you don't want to spend dollars on things that you don't need at this current point in time, but balancing that with the value that's going to be added into whatever it is that you're working on, SaaS specifically in this case.
Right. And yeah, I think that that's what I love about Red Sky and the guys that I work with there, is that is their mentality. We are let's help businesses succeed, not let's make more money, right? When you help businesses succeed, you do make more money. That's great.
Right.
But if you focus on the money first, it becomes really tough to help them succeed.
Yeah.
And so we've had people, in fact, we just had somebody on a call yesterday or the day before who wants to put a GPS tracker in a key fob.
Okay.
Custom key fobs that he builds that look like your car, and really cool project. And Josh got on the phone with him and he said, you could do this really cheap if you're just going to try to get it started.
Right.
And like, he pushed him away from actually building out the big it can be really expensive to do it really well the way he wants to. And Josh said, you could get it off the ground like this. And the guy, luckily for us, said, no, actually, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it right.
Right. He knew exactly what he
and wants us to build the big thing anyway, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that Josh would say, hey, you don't need us yet if you don't want to. Like, you could really do this a lot cheaper this way first.
Right.
It says something about Josh, right? We're not just trying to make the buck.
Yeah.
Trying to make you successful.
Collaborative, right? You want to be able to provide value at the right time, at the right stage.
Right.
And again, that's why I loved your comment about vibe coding, where, for people who are just looking to find product market fit, right? Like, I think it is a fantastic tool to get something out there, right? In consultation with somebody who knows some of the back end stuff, obviously, but to really validate that market and understand what you have before you have to start, raising those funds to pull the trigger on the more, technical build out of whatever it is that you're working on.
Which eventually you hope you have to do, right? That's the whole point.
Course.
You want your business to go big enough that you have to really put some money into it so that it can continue to scale and grow and everything you wanted it to do. So
yeah, exactly. And that's something we talk about all the time, about you're going to have problems no matter what you're doing, right? But you want to get to the problems that are scaling problems, not initial validation and traction problems, right? Those are so frustrating, right? You feel like nobody cares about what you're doing and nobody cares or is interested in your solution.
You can't tell them
about it.
Right.
Versus, hey, we are scaling, right? And now we're dealing with how can we onboard this many people, right? How can we have so many people pinging our server all day and be able to support that? How do we, increase the space, all those types of things. Again, I'm not super technical on the software side, but it's really fun to deal with those problems. It's really frustrating to deal with the validation and traction problems early on.
It's really nice to know that it has potential without putting a bunch of money in it first, right? And that's where the vibe coding comes in. I think it's awesome.
And relating that to sales, it's same type of thing there, right? Like, if all you're doing is cold outreach all day long, like, can be exhausting,
brutal.
right? Just brutal days. And everybody's been there, right? And it happens. It's, part of the learning curve of it. But the more fun problems are when you have too many like warm leads coming in, right? And you're trying to juggle your schedule, and you have, 10 calls set up today, and you can't get to all of them. So you got to bump people and manage those expectations. And one of those situations is making you a lot of money, right? And the other is just wearing you down.
Yeah.
And so
both are problems.
Yes.
One is a much better problem than the other.
Yes, exactly. So are there any lessons like that from your kind of sales background that you've been able to apply as you've been, because I guess maybe this is my perspective on your role. You kind of went from what I would call a pure salesman, right? Like, here's the product. I'm convincing you to buy the thing because it's going to make your life better, right? Whether it's a dental software or a widget or whatever it might be, pest control, whatever it might be, into more of a consultant of kinds, right? Where you're getting a feel for people, understanding where they're at, understanding what their product is, understanding if it's a good fit for Red Sky, right? And then advising them on when best to jump in and pull the trigger on the development. Is there anything that's like in your sales history that you feel like really primed you for this type of role in your career?
Yeah, throughout the whole thing, actually. And that is relationships, which we've touched on already. Mm-hmm. So I am this is going to sound bad on a podcast probably, but I'm a good person at heart. I am not a salesman, as some people think of them. And I started with door-to-door, and I started for a company that taught me to do terrible things. Mm-hmm. And I was young, 18 years old, naive, and I just did what I was trained to do.
Right. Didn't know any different at the time.
I didn't, yeah. And I was selling security systems, and they were teaching me to sell to people who had already had security systems. Mm. But instead of selling mine and switching them over, they told me to just say, we're from your security company, and we're here to switch out your panel.
Goodness gracious.
And then they would sign the thing and have both security companies now billing them.
Right.
And I probably should have just been smarter in the beginning, but I wasn't. And I just thought that, that's what we do. And so I did it until a lady called me out on it. I passed by her house the next day, and she let me have it.
Right. Rightfully so, it sounds
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
Right.
And so I was just like, what? And I was ready to quit right then and there. I called my dad and said, hey, I'm coming home. Like, I can't be treating people like this. Yeah, this is not okay. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, can't you just sell it the way it's supposed to be sold?
Right.
And internally, I did some, actually, yeah, I could do that. And it was at that moment, very first summer, that I realized if I'm going to sell stuff, I'm going to do it honestly.
Right.
I'm going to do it so that I give everybody my cell phone number after I make a sale. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of them calling me.
Right.
I'm not afraid of what they're going to have to say to me because I'm going to do it right. I'm going to have a good relationship with them.
Right.
And that is great throughout all sales. Now, it's not as important in your transactional sales, maybe selling dental software.
Right.
It's mostly just call, sell it. Mm-hmm. They get a win, you get a win.
Exactly.
But when I transferred into tech like this, when McKay hired me, he told me if you can get one sale in the first year, mm-hmm. we'll be happy.
Right.
Like that was the expectation, which is crazy coming from you want one or three every day, yes. right? And so if you can get one in the first year, that's what we need. And I was like, that's crazy because as a salesman, you want your commission.
Right.
One sale in a year doesn't pay a lot of commission, right? But they paid me a base salary that was a little higher mm-hmm. because they knew what was coming, right?
Well, different industry, different expectations, all those types of things.
And so it was just really good to have that expectation set up front that, hey, you're going to go out and essentially make friends. Mm-hmm. You're going to build relationships. You are going to tell people what we do,
right.
but people are not probably going to be ready to pull the trigger mm-hmm. when you talk to them. This is a months-long, sometimes years-long process that you're just getting started with. Mm-hmm. And so, but back to the relationships, right? That's what I use now. That's all I use.
Of course.
Hey, I want to get to know you. I take people to lunch. I meet up with people. I do a lot of calls, video calls anymore, and actually ask them about what they're doing, tell them about what we're doing. Yeah. And sometimes there's crossover, sometimes they're not. But I'm not at a loss when there's not, because what I've seen is that because I have a good relationship, 6 months later, all of a sudden somebody's calling me like, hey,
somewhere down the line,
yeah,
you get that
I got
referral.
a buddy that's doing a tech project, right?
Absolutely.
And you're like, wow, I did not expect that to come from there, but it's just more into the networking and relationships that I've kind of built my career on that just makes sense.
No, I love that insight. And the imagery that I had going through my mind was like kind of the old West snake oil salesman, right? Like where they go from town to town and burn every bridge along the way, versus somebody who's going to come in, set up shop, and going to be there for the next 50 years.
Right.
And so it's really cool to hear you say that. And we deal with that a lot in tech transfer as well, right? Where we're not here just trying to push technology out. We want to build those relationships so that people come back time and time again to roll out other ventures or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, we're running a little short on time today, but did you have any other kind of closing thoughts that you might want to share with young entrepreneurs? I feel like you've been through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, working different places, kind of coming to terms with who you're going to be as a, professional. Any advice that you might give to a young upstart entrepreneur who wants to get out into the world of tech? Yeah,
I've had a lot of experience myself, but I lean a lot on McKay, who's a good friend of mine. He's ultra entrepreneur, and watching him, he's also been much more successful than I have. And so watching him, I've learned a ton. Couple of things: roll with the punches, because they're gonna happen. You cannot get frustrated by failing. Fail quick, learn faster, and move forward. Entrepreneurship is hard, and you are going to fail. If you're not failing, you're progressing.
Well, you're not taking enough risks, right? Like you haven't done enough.
And so, if that's the route you want to go, if you want to go into business, I think you have to be ready to fail and learn. McKay does really good at this. He'll start something and he'll go all in for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it doesn't work.
Right.
And he's like, on to the next.
It
doesn't bother him
It's
at
just like,
all.
Oh, that idea didn't work. We're going to move on to the next one.
And most of us have a hard time with failure.
Or we'll hold on to our ideas for years without ever actually putting in the effort to understand whether or not it's a good idea.
Right. Or put in the 2 to 3 weeks of effort and then feel like, I put this much effort in, I can't quit now. Right. Even though everything is saying it's not going to work,
says it's a terrible
you still
idea.
push it because it was your idea. It's your baby. And so, but yeah, I think that's the main one. And then treat everybody well. Right. Never don't cross people for money. It's just not worth it. You might make a lot of money, but in the end, who cares?
Well, in the end, you're living on an island, right? Because you built all the bridges, and now you've got a bunch of money and nobody to share it with.
And we have worked with founders that do that. Right. They're working with us just to get their thing done, and that's it. They don't care about us. They don't care about anybody else. They care about their product and the money they're going to make off of it. And it has turned into bad relationships and bad blood and poor investments that, we're still hoping maybe something comes from it eventually. Probably won't. Even if they do well, chances that they come back and are honest with you, slim chance, right? So treat people well, take your punches, and build good relationships, I think.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I know I kind of gave you some short notice, so appreciate you coming here, and looking forward to working together in the future.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.